So she whispered madness to her child, the Anti-Monitor, driving him towards his revenge on his brother, the Monitor. A crisis on infant Earths is what he decided to grant, but her children were failures, incapable of ruling her lands.
What's up, guys? It's me, Lumos Theramax, here covering issue 5 of 2021's Green Lantern series. And honestly, there's some really interesting things going on with this one. Obviously, the guys who wrote this one, Thorne Rainey, Santucci McDonald, and Atiya, obviously they're drawing, I think, very large inspiration in this chapter from the Sinestro series that came out during the New 52. I mean, even the cover art features pretty much every one of the main characters from that. Minus, like, I think Becca, the New Gods. I think she's the only one missing, probably for good reason. But outside of that, it's definitely pretty hype. So we pick up immediately with New Korugar in this latest chapter, and there's a narrator narrating a lot of things going on about a specific character, and the person they're narrating about is Sinestro themselves. And they're wondering, like, he was a hero once. He used to be one of the most greatest characters around, considered the greatest Green Lantern. But I wonder whatever made it happen. The people just don't turn evil all at once. It's always inch by inch. So why did he turn evil? Why did he go dark? Well, of course, it's fear. At some point in time, Sinestro looked up and he couldn't see the stars anymore. He only saw the infinite darkness. And as Sinestro looks up, he does notice something in the sky. And he throws the two concubines that he'd been sleeping with off of him and immediately walks over to his window where he dons a Sinestro Corps outfit. And he notices something's happening off in the distance. And he takes it very seriously. And the narration continues. It's hard to say a variety of things, but something I do know is be careful when you look too close at darkness. Sometimes the darkness looks back, implying that Sinestro is the darkness looking back in the situation. And as we move to the battlefield, it appears there's some sort of giant green creature just absolutely thrashing its way through all of Sinestro's forces. So much so that the drones and all their base defenses were inefficient, and they had to send in the elite guard. And at first, I thought this was just a creature attacking, but no, that was a giant construct, and it's Kelly Quintella who rolls up to the battlefield, and she says one word. She yells one word, dude. Sinestro. And she just creates 18 bajillion hammer constructs, dude. She's tearing through all his forces, makes herself into a buzzsaw, flies through all of them, finally gets hit by something that takes that kind of shakes her, and the whole elite guard shows up, with Arkello making a giant construct dragon that immediately breathes fire down at Kelly Quintella. But she creates another construct person in order to block them out of the way, as well as a construct Wonder Woman, and slashes them all back. And the whole time this narration's popping off about how Sinestro essentially gave up to the dark abyss known as fear, trying to control it or weaponize it like a hammer. But that only really works if everybody is all nail. If you look at everything as nails. But fear's only a weapon to people who's ever actually felt it before. And many can just see the symptoms or the effects of fear itself. And as both of their constructs clash, the huge explosion occurs, throwing back both the elite guard as well as Kelly Quintella on opposite sides of the battlefield. As Kelly Quintella smashes into the ground, she immediately gets up, just yells Sinestro one more time in an attempt to get his attention, and she creates a giant construct, John Stewart, as a result. The narration continues saying that no one here knows her and knows of her fears, but they did see John's report. And she knows that John went with her to Oa. Why would she have information on a top secret character like Kelly Quintella, especially being a part of the Sinestro Corps? And they go on to continue to say, no mom to defend her, no dad to keep her safe, no brothers, no sister. All the constructs she's made, those are people she's met in her last year of becoming a lantern. And for the first time, we see this Sinestro Corps member roll up, and it's a female woman who has these yellow construct-like claws. And she jumps up on Kelly Quintella and puts her hands over her head. And immediately, everything for Kelly Quintella is a white room. And slowly but surely, all of her biggest fears begin to manifest within this room. And the narrator continues narrating fear of the sun, cynophobia, fear of dogs, but the last and most powerful, autophobia, the fear of being alone. And with that, Kelly Quintella passes out and is essentially one-shotted by this unknown yellow lantern. and her construct, Jon Stewart, looks at her and fades away. But we're interrupted immediately by someone over a loudspeaking yelling, "Attention, Yellow Lantern, United Planets jurisdiction has been invoked." And suddenly there's an ODST trooper who slams on the ground at some sort of green drop piece. And a man in Iron Man-esque armor walks out saying, "Cease hostilities. Did you hear me?" And the man immediately goes to attacking the Sinestro Corps member, who says, "Hard not to, dude. You're talking from a loudspeaker." And Simon says, "Step away from the kid," and the Yellow Lantern immediately creates a yellow construct cobra that snatches Simon Baz and immediately just one-shots him, dude. Wraps him up and has the cobra's mouth over his head. And says, "Look, dude, you're the one who unleashed a powerful child against us with zero psi training, no mental defenses at all. He's like, you're lucky that we could stop her, or you're lucky she didn't kill all of us. But if she was genuinely talented, this could have been a threat, and it could have ended poorly. And the opportunity to end poorly is still there. Begins to be crushed by that cobra." But she says, "Now go ahead, get her out of here before Sinestro shows up." And he says, "Wait, you're just letting us go?" And she says, "Yeah, you don't want to know what Sinestro would do to that kid, Simon." And Simon, the person inside the armor, Simon Baz, says, wait a minute, how do you know my name?" And the chick teleports away. And Simon looks at Kelly and says, "We got to get out of here before those forces show up, before more Sinestro Corps members show up." So he immediately gets back in his drop pod, and I'm assuming they head off after those events, because that's where that story ends. So, picking up with the events of Jon Stewart, as well as the other Lanterns off in deep space, Jon had officially just overcome all the mercenaries on the localized planet that he was on. But the problem is all the locals now hate him because they had revealed, this mercenary group had revealed that they were the one, they only showed up because of Jon Stewart. And if they hadn't shown up for Jon Stewart, they wouldn't have tried to take all these people as slaves. And so they all basically agree, something has to be done about Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart says, "Whatever. I'm actually trying to get off this mud hole of a planet anyway, and these guys gave me the tech I really needed to get off the planet. But you know what? It's not only that. Now you guys have ships, so you can kind of leave the planet whenever you want. So we're all going to head in our own directions if you really want." And a few of the members decided to hang out with Jon afterwards, and Jon travels all the way to the lighthouse that the Lanterns had set up the second they had got here, whenever they had first made that big jump. And all sorts of people have been showing up to this, but keep in mind, a lot of Green Lanterns are still here. Their rings are inactive, they no longer function, but they're still here, and a lot of them are dead. But the problem is, Jon Stewart immediately gets clocked by one of his fellow Lanterns because he just wasn't there. I mean, he is the mission leader. He went out on a mission, and whenever he left, things just went to shit. And so a lot of the Lanterns essentially blame Jon Stewart for not being able to, I don't know, make things happen appropriately. I'm not really sure what Jon could have done in this situation to solve it, but there's just a lot of frustration with it. But there's an intercom that pops off in the middle of conversation, and sure enough, it's from Kilowog, as well as another fellow elite Green Lantern. And Kilowog says, "Yo, dude, we ain't got a working ring. We need one of you guys to get us out of here, because if not, we're gonna die." And they're obviously being fired upon by some unknown force, presumably more of the mercenaries trying to claim Lanterns for bounties. Which, at the end of the day, who's creating these bounties for the Lanterns? If Sinestro is doing it, he wouldn't be hiring random thugs and losers like this. So I'm curious to see exactly what's coming on with that. But at the end of the day, I'm not too invested in this whole Jon Stewart storyline. I think it's something that could be utilized to great effectiveness, but whatever it is the storyline we're getting is now, I don't really care, and they need to amp it up. They need to do something to make it more relevant, in my opinion. But on the flip side, the entire Sinestro arc that's popping off is super lit, dude. I'm really curious to see what Sinestro's plans are with Kelly Quintella, as well as, man, the artwork for that side of the story is amazing, dude. They went back to the classic Sinestro with the pale glowing eyes, the brutal nature, as well as like the darker side of things, and he's just coldly watching, waiting. But they're really hyping up Kelly Quintella. I mean, she's obviously wildly dangerous, and I'm loving what they're doing with her. And this new Lantern's super intriguing. Maybe we'll get a genuinely good Sinestro Corps member. That would be interesting, because I don't think we've ever had that situation in comics in general, unless it was like
Hal Jordan manages to pick up the ring, but it's only really like a short-term kind of situation. Fear can be utilized in a variety of ways, especially good. Believe it or not, Sinestro's done a lot of good in his days, despite some of the really fucked up shit he's done in the name of fear as well.
And I have a personal theory as to who this yellow lantern is. So if you do, tell me what you think down below, and I might do a vid on that later if it gets enough attention.
But either way, super pumped, super hyped, can't wait to see where this goes. The next storyline we will be working on is the next video I'll be working on is the 2 newest Infinite Frontiers that have come out. I'm just gonna slam them both together for one massive video because there's a lot of really interesting Black Lantern stuff in there that I do want to cover. I guess if that's the case, until next time, guys, later, Lanterns.
So she whispered madness to her child, the Anti-Monitor, driving him towards his revenge on his brother, the Monitor. A crisis on infant Earths is what he decided to grant, but her children were failures incapable of ruling her lands.